I wonder if you could tell us about your history with Kareem Roustom and his composition Ramal. I know you've conducted it multiple times. Let's just talk about Ramal and Kareem.
Sure. Kareem, starting off, he's a dear friend of mine. He's based in Boston, and a Syrian American composer. And his music is very popular now. He's commissioned all over the world. His pieces are being played by orchestras all over the world. And I came about this piece because of my small involvement with the West Eastern Divan Orchestra that is led by Daniel Barenboim. I was just invited to visit them for a week. And this piece was on the program. And for those of you who don't know, the West Eastern Divan Orchestra is an orchestra that's formed by the famous conductor Daniel Barenboim and the political advocate Edward Said. And it's an orchestra that brings together Israeli musicians and musicians from various Arab countries and puts them together and has them play together. And it shows a true representation of peace. And it really works. And they're performing all over the world. And they are a fantastic ensemble, credit to, of course, Maestro Barenboim. So this piece, Kareem's piece, I heard and I said, I have to do it. And Ramal, just to talk a little bit about the piece in itself, is it is a one of 16 pre-Islamic Arabic poetic meters. And you'll hear it right off the bat with the orchestra. Bum, ba bum, 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 ba ba bum, bum. I mean, he establishes right at the beginning. And he takes that rhythm and he evolves it and he transforms it throughout the work. But the underlying energy and rhythm that you hear throughout the piece is what makes it so exciting. It's very propulsive and organic, if you will. And what another thing about the piece that makes it so effective is Kareem, he does, as a composer, he does such a great job. And this also ties in with Dvorak a little bit, where he builds a bridge between the Middle Eastern world and the Western world, right? So the Middle Eastern world has different scales, different tones, different sounds. And Kareem does an incredible job at writing a piece with those influences, yet makes it accessible for a Western orchestra to play and for a Western audience to hear. So you'll hear these different tones that you might not be used to, but when we listen to it in the concert, you'll see how much energy there is in this work, and I think it's a great way to start off the program.
I've been enjoying getting to know it through a couple of recordings and can't wait to bring it to our audiences here. Uh,
Great.
Maybe a few words about Mozart's
Yep.
Concerto for Flute and Harp, a different animal, but that's what follows up the Ramal on our program. Why don't you talk
Sure.
about that in a little bit?
Definitely. So Mozart's Flute and Harp Concerto, a piece, believe it or not, actually, I've done a few times, and what makes this piece very special to me is that it's always been done by a pair of musicians who are always dear friends of mine, and I've done it a few times now. So I'm very much looking forward to MyungJu and Dan and working with them and collaborating them, meeting them and making music with them on this piece. You know, Mozart's Flute and Harp Concerto. Okay, flute and harp, two completely unrelated instruments, particularly when you think about Mozart's time. Flute, of course, as you know, Todd, is a solo instrument back at the time for sure, but the harp was not really an instrument that was part of the orchestral repertoire at the time, right? Think about it. Let's look back in history. So the piece was written in 1778. So look at the timeline of history. It's right around the Declaration of Independence, right? On this side of the pond. Mozart was commissioned to write this work because he was in Paris at the time, and he wrote it for the French Duke, who was a flute player, and his daughter, who was a harp player. So there's the connection, right? But even though you wouldn't imagine these two instruments be played together, when you actually hear it in the work, because it's Mozart, right, and it's a piece of perfection, it actually works perfectly. And even though it's a 27-minute work, you'd think it flies by like this because it's a piece of perfection and just an absolute example of, I think, charm and elegance. So I actually think it fits perfectly after Ramal.